Welcome to Living Once Twice, a lifestyle design and personal adventure podcast. My name is Justin. Come with me as I'm here to help you chart your course for creating the fulfilling life you desire. Join me as every Wednesday we'll dive into the inspiring guest stories, remarkable science, and useful strategies to help you create the momentum you need to take action towards designing your dream life. Remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Greetings all, Justin here. Welcome back to Living Once Twice. I am very appreciative to you all for taking part in this journey and tuning in to today's episode, as I hope this season provides more fuel in the form of stories, strategies, and science as we rewrite narratives, reinvent ourselves, and reimagine our lives. Now, before I get deep into today's episode, I want to encourage you all to follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice if you haven't already, or I'll be posting more insight, inspiration, and info on upcoming episodes. But in today's episode, I want to talk about the topic of self-forgiveness, which I think is so important, especially as we're going through the process of rewriting narratives from the past, reinventing ourselves, and reimagining new possibilities for our lives. This September actually marks the 2 years anniversary since I had the opportunity to speak on past guest Denzel Herrera Davis's For Me to You platform. And Denzel was a guest on episode 24, Turning Your Pain into Purpose. And in my opportunity to speak on his platform, we spoke about the topic of intimacy and speaking about how, for myself personally, for so much of my adult life, I was walking around unconsciously. I gave the example of I was walking around on a broken ankle, limping through life, especially once again, my adult life. And I operated from a place of never truly being intimate with myself. The foundation that I had been operating from was one based off of insecurity, inferiority, immaturity, ego, pain rooted in unhealed trauma, narcissism, behavior patterns. And you can imagine, as I'm sharing this, all of this foundation, one of the manifestations of it was that I was awful in the arena of building intimate, close relationships and how I showed up in those relationships. And you probably have heard the term hurt people. And oh boy, was that really the truth about me. I just acted out in immature, unhealthy, toxic ways and really made choices that destroyed the connection that I could have, and even really obviously didn't lead to sustaining any healthy relationships personally, or even in my own relationship to myself. So as I became and started to become more consciously aware of this unhealthy foundation that I was operating from and its impact on others, one of the struggles that I've been working through in this season of my journey is learning how to own those parts of myself while accepting the outcomes, the consequences of those behaviors, but doing that deeper work to make amends while healing, to ensure that I could show up as a more healthier and more conscious person across all areas of my life, personally and professionally. Essentially giving death to the old while rebirthing anew. And a very critical piece of doing that work is self-forgiveness, is forgiveness. And maybe you can relate when it comes to thinking about past versions of yourself, past mistakes that you've made, a time when you've hurt someone that cared about you, such as a friend, a family member, a partner, or intentionally saying or doing something that caused harm to someone else. And now you want to make peace with it and start anew, which can be hard because you can't forget about what you did. There's no Men in Black eraser that eliminates the pain and the feelings of hurt, especially once again when it involved the heart or the feelings of another human. So in today's episode, I want to offer you 3 things that I've learned throughout my journey in this season that you can start to do to practice self-forgiveness and creating more inner peace with your past. And the first being taking responsibility. Taking responsibilities for our past means accepting and acknowledging with no excuse what has happened, the reality of the impact that it's had, and what we've done. This means that, listen, you accept the actions of and the behaviors and the ways that you showed up while also agreeing to work towards moving forward. Because we have to understand we cannot change what happened in the past. And this could be hard to take responsibility, especially if, once again, you're operating from a foundation of insecurity, of ego, because that could be like the last thing on your mind. And so often we want to pass blame to something on the outside. We become defensive. We want to minimize or even ignore the impact instead of pointing the finger at ourselves. But this approach, it's not productive in the healing and the self-forgiveness process. If we have to really sit with what we've done, especially, once again, if it had a negative impact on someone else and ourselves. And we can't make excuses when it comes to having to take responsibility. We have to admit wrong in order to, once again, start making space for us to move forward in this process. The next thing I like to offer in terms of the process of self-forgiveness is we have to also make amends, and that's if possible. And so I'll start by saying this. If you're trying to make amends to a person that you've caused hurt or harm to, they have every right to not accept your apology or to even offer you the space to make amends, as they have to prioritize their own healing, their own wellness. So you have to respect that, because you may not be able to take back what has happened or make things right with them. So with that, you have to go inward and you have to really start by making amends with yourself, understanding that, to give you a perspective, you were doing what you knew then. So you know you've learned from that choice and you can do better now. I love what Dr. Michelle Daff says is, it's also important when you go through that process of making amends with yourself and working through forgiving yourself for the past, you also can't glorify that behavior, as making amends means you know that this will not happen again. So self-forgiveness by making amends to yourself means letting go of the past, letting go of the past versions of yourself, the way that you showed up, and showing yourself compassion in that process and making peace with that past version of yourself so you could let go of the feelings and the emotions that were associated with what went wrong, whether it's resentment and guilt and hate and shame and anger that are all, once again, a part of that past and those mistakes that you made. And so the third and final thing that I want to offer that you can start to do to practice more self-forgiveness and making progress in this area is you have to commit to the work of meaningful change. Because taking responsibility, it has to go beyond just the acknowledgement. It's working through changing your behavior. And this goes in a variety of different directions of thinking before we act and react. This can be going to therapy to get help to start healing the roots that led to this behavior. This could be being more mindful, thinking about our actions and the impact that they could have on others, as oftentimes we don't give ourselves the time to really think about that. We really operate from a place of just thinking about ourselves first. Setting and creating new boundaries could be a way for us to show a commitment to that work of meaningful change, using the situation in whatever way possible in a positive way, but only by working to take what we've learned from that experience, make adjustments, and change our behavior can we ensure the possibility of a better outcome in the future, and that we're once again not likely to commit the same mistake that we're really hoping to heal and move forward from and forgive ourselves from. So as I prepare to wrap up this episode, I want to end by sharing this, is that what I've learned from this journey of self-forgiveness is that it does not mean that we can fix things. because we maybe will never be able to make things right, because at the end of the day, we can't unring a bell that's already been rung. We can't change the past and the consequences that it's created in this present moment. But as we take responsibility, we strive to make amends, even if it's just making amends with ourselves, and commit to doing the work of meaningful change, we are then setting ourselves up to end sometimes, which can be that self-torturing guilt of carrying that weight that has had a grip over you and I. And we don't have to remain stuck in our past version of ourselves and those mistakes that we made that we wish we could change. And as YouTuber and coach Kellen Flukiger says, we can make a choice that our past does not dictate who we are in our future days. And instead, our future can be set in a positive and productive way. We can become a different person. And as we do good and embrace the change and the good that we could do now, we once again can ensure a different future outcome. So that is it for today's episode. I want to again thank you for your presence and tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please show your support by sharing the Living Once Twice podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or wherever, and leaving us a review on iTunes. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice, or go to the Living Once Twice website for more content updates. Reaching out to you all through the time and the space that separates us to say, remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.